And his students remind him. Let's hear it from Mr. Williams.
Yay. There you go, Bob. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I just have to say I'm just overwhelmed and honored, but basically overwhelmed with gratitude. And that slide of my mom and dad, my parents, my dad was a logger, had a one-man sawmill in Palmer, Alaska, and my mother was a nurse. And my father passed in 2010. My mom is still alive, but I just want to say how honored I am to be their son, and that growing up the son of a logger, you develop a strong work ethic, and that's one of the best gifts that you can have. And so, as wonderful as this honor has been, I just want to share that the values that I learned from my parents, the work ethic, to always strive for excellence. I hope I've honored my parents in my lifetime work as a teacher, and it means a lot. So thank you. I really wanted to include my students and the staff and the school in this experience. I hauled a calculus project here to be displayed at the National Teacher Hall of Fame, and it was a little awkward getting on the plane because it was about 2 feet by 3 feet. But I want to thank all the students. That video, when I saw that video, some of the things the students had made, it was just so rewarding and so meaningful. So I want to thank Cade and Kelly, Lexi, Cameron, Leah, Lily, Colleen, all my Algebra 1 classes, my geometry classes, my calculus classes. You were wonderful, and it's just been an honor to be a teacher and see you learn and grow. I now work for the Alaska Department of Education and Early Development. I want to thank Commissioner Johnson for letting me come here this week and just say I'm really proud to be part of that team. And Commissioner Johnson wanted to come, but he couldn't make his schedule. But I love working with Commissioner Johnson, Deputy Commissioner Santa Eford, Paul Pressing, also the people who manage the units in the division that I lead as director, Sandra Meredith, Brad Billings, Todd Brocious, and the rest of the team. I think we all work together to see the highest quality education we can for all students. I also want to thank Claudio Sanchez. The visit we had in Washington, D.C. was very meaningful. And I know the media doesn't always get a lot of love every single day, all the time. But but they have a job to do, and they need to ask questions, share information, get at the truth. And I just want to say that Claudio, you always wonder, well, how much do the reporters really care, or are they just doing their job? Well, in the conversation with Claudio, I can tell he really cares about education. He really cares about public education, and he wants to see a high-quality education for all students in the United States. And that's great and wonderful. And I'm not saying he's perfect. I hear him, and he probably disagree with me, but I hear him, he always says NPR. And I think as math teachers, any math teachers in the room, it's not NPR. It's the permutation of n things taken r at a time. And technically, he doesn't need to say all things considered, because if you've looked at all the permutations, you really are considering all the things. And so it's somewhat redundant. But in talking with him, one of the questions he asked me was, do you think, why do you think the Nationals Teacher Hall of Fame is Emporia, or should it be in Emporia, Kansas? And I think that's a good question to think about. Where should the National Teachers Hall of Fame be? Well, I would think it shouldn't be on the West Coast necessarily, or the East Coast. It should be probably somewhere in the middle. Probably not at the very top of the Continental or the bottom, kind of somewhere in the middle. I think it should be in a place where education is highly valued, where you walk down the streets and you see teachers in the storefronts, National Teacher Hall of Fame on banners, where education is celebrated. I think it should be in a place where I just saw this, I think it was yesterday, a professional nearby baseball team, they hit a grand slam Home run came from behind, won the game. That was on page 7. But on the front page of the Emporia Gazette was the National Teacher Hall of Fame, the inductees, and teachers. And I have to say, I think it should be in a place where I was delighted to be at a table with the mayor, head of the Chamber of Commerce, and just hear the strong support for public education in general. That's where the National Teachers Hall of Fame should be. I have to say that getting into the National Teachers Hall of Fame is different than I expected. I thought it was going to be a finish line. I thought it would be, now I can rest. I finally made it, and now I can just rest for a good long time. And I'm very honored. I'm very grateful. But I have to say I'm not satisfied. I won't be satisfied with my work in public education until we see equitable outcomes for all students across the United States. I won't be satisfied till we see that in indicators like the NAEP assessments or the PEAS exams that show that our kids can do problem solving competitively across the world. I won't be satisfied till I see our students, like particularly in Alaska, we have a lot of ugly numbers. There's so many things about education that's very, very rewarding, but I have to say in my 29.7 years as a teacher, there are ugly numbers and ugly things that sometimes happen to students that stop you dead in your tracks, that make it so hard you wonder if you can go on. But you can work collaboratively with others and you find the courage to go forward. But we need to improve. We cannot be satisfied with what we currently have. As the Director of Educator and School Excellence, I'll be back in work on Monday, and I'll be working with the team on getting out the second draft of the Every Student Succeed Act for Alaska for that application. I'll also be working on Governor Walker's Alaska Education Challenge. And it just strikes me that this is not a finish line. So wherever we have the National Teachers Hall of Fame, I think they should have a race, like a long race, maybe 200 miles long. Maybe call it the Dirty Kanza. And you don't finish a 200-mile bike race all at once. You should have checkpoints. Maybe at Madison, Eureka, then come back at Madison, then come back to Emporia. But that's what I think National Teachers Hall of Fame for my fellow inductees and for all of us is. It's not a finish line, it's a checkpoint. It's a checkpoint to reflect on where we've been, what we've accomplished, and then to push forward. I came here to learn and listen, and I think Kansas is just a fantastic place to do that. The one-room schoolhouse. I can say in Alaska, one of the biggest challenges we have a lot of small rural schools with 1 or 2 teachers in small rural Alaska communities. And the big challenge, we have high teacher turnover, sometimes high principal turnover, sometimes high superintendent turnover, but the big challenge is bringing high quality education to small rural communities where often they have a one schoolhouse. So I would hope the National Teachers, wherever the National Teachers Hall of Fame is, that there'd be a one-room schoolhouse nearby to kind of show that commitment, not just to large cities, but also rural communities. And I also, yesterday, I drove to Kansas City because Alaska is one of 5 states participating in a federal grant that the University of Kansas runs. And there were 29 Alaskan teachers at that professional development. So I went out there, I helped recruit some of the teachers through the superintendents and talked to them. And what encouraged me was talking to teachers, talking about that professional development they were receiving through the University of Kansas, how it was going to help them be more effective in the classroom, working in multi-grade classroom, working in rural communities, and making a difference. So I think the perfect place to have the National Teachers Hall of Fame is Emporia, Kansas. And last, I would just like to thank, and this brings up that last slide of my wife Connie, my son Kevin, and my daughter Cassidy. I love education. I love teaching. I love the profession. I love my fellow inductees. But I cannot express what joy and what overwhelming sense of love I have for Connie, Kevin, and Cassidy, that they are in my life, and that my life has been truly blessed. So no matter how long I live, this work has been very powerful, but to have their love and to be able to love them means so much. So thank you, Connie, for being here. And I love Emporia. I love the National Teachers Hall of Fame. I love my fellow inductees, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Bob Williams. Thank you, Mr. Williams.